It's good. All right, kick off that streaming. After all, we've done that really nice little thing to introduce in the buffer, and here we are complaining about the chainsaw that won't start. Anyway, rock
We?
on, let's go. I think many of us can relate to the lawnmower, the chainsaw that won't start. Surely, you know.
Yes, I just think it's very interesting that you got there from here,
Well,
or
because
from.
it's. I feel like whenever we're trying to start the show with YouTube, it's like, yes, you've got enough bandwidth. Here's the system status. It's good.
Right.
And then click and fail. Okay. Let's try
Well,
that
and I
again.
exactly. I think for those that don't do this with YouTube, it is very interesting that um, the when you get on there and it's like, oh, I've got great bandwidth. You can do all your bandwidth checkers and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, yeah, we're good to
Yep.
go. And then you get on to YouTube and it goes, you stink. Like, what's going on with your bandwidth today? Like, yes. So
Yeah.
it's a bit frustrating.
And there's a couple of ways you can get around that. You can do what we do, which is just banter until it gets fixed. And I know a few
Right.
people do that because that's very natural. Or you can throw up a big please wait until this broadcast begins, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Right.
Which we could do that too. I think we've done that in the past, but it just doesn't make for a very interesting beginning to a video. And
Right.
again, for the
Anyway.
flow on there of those who do live streams, if you trim it up, which you can do, so that people don't have to sit there waiting, you blow away all your lovely live chat that we've got going here with Sandy Usia, Phil Worrell, Suzanne Hunt, Joanne Klein, Steve Collier. This is like a roll call, guys and
That's right.
girls. That's really cool.
Hello.
It's awesome having your support.
Let's
Anyway,
get
let's get into
rolling.
it.
Let's
Let's get
do it.
into it.
I'm excited.
What do you think of these little videos we're making here to try and create a bit more awareness throughout the week? They working?
I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great for people to understand what we're going to be addressing and kind of get an idea. I think it's a great thing. So, good you, good on you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good
no,
job.
it's good. I think too, like there's plenty of stuff to talk about throughout the week, so we just pick on a
Yep.
few that are interesting, and you have seen that there have been some interesting ones put out there. Making a start on a new feature to Outlook on the web that Daniel, you are definitely in favour of. Outlook on the web,
Yeah.
or calendar quick compose.
Yeah, so the people who watch the show know that I use calendar or Outlook on the web a lot. I just do, and I won't go into the reasons. But one thing that have found very, I won't say um, annoying, cumbersome. But we'll go with that one. Is that when you go to click on, in the calendar view, you click on, hey, I want to schedule a meeting here. It pops up, but it's like, you can just quickly create a meeting, great, but you can't do anything other than just, put a title in and kind of go with it. But if you're creating a meeting, you want to add attendees. And so I'm really excited about this, that adding in that additional add attendees to when you're creating a quick compose and the calendar is going to be there. When you're on a call or something, you need to quickly create oh, yes, let's meet at 3, do that real quick. I really like that. And so this update for me is really exciting.
Yep, definitely. Like you said, it felt like you had to just open it every time anyway, unless you're
Yep.
creating a block of time for your focus
Right.
time for yourself.
That's the only time it was good, was if
Yep.
you're just blocking off time. Otherwise, you had to go into it anyway. So I really like being able to add attendees, and it can actually make it a meeting. So, yeah, I like it.
Definitely. So gradually rolling this out to targeted release customers in early June. It's already been and gone, so it should be arriving to targeted release customers and completed by the end of June. Here we come.
Right.
Anyone in the chat
Yes.
room see this yet?
I'm
Why
glad
is Darrell
you.
dressed like a burglar?
Well,
Thanks,
I was-
Steve. Thanks.
I was just
'Cause I'm trying to
just
steal
about
your
to type a
interest.
response to that.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the fact that we haven't got enough notice on this one yet. But I mean, it's not a huge update for me. I mean, it's not a huge change for users. It's kind of one of those things of, oh,
not
look,
disruptive.
But yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't put it as a disruptive update.
nope.
It's one that you just want to let people know that, hey, this is a really useful thing to have.
Yeah, let me
What
see if
else
it's
have
in
we
my tenant.
got? We've got supervision policies for Microsoft
Mhm.
365 now includes Skype for Business online chat and email exclusions. Now these
Which,
supervision policies, they're good. They help you to keep a closer eye on particular people, individuals. Um,
yep.
Interesting that they've thrown in there that it's going to include Skype for Business online chat.
Yeah, I isn't Skype for. I mean, don't get me. Sorry, Skype people, but isn't Skype for Business going away?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but I think I heard about something coming along like this. So, um, so I think I heard about it a while back. But anyway, so adding this, yes, whatever we can do to cover um, all the communication types in our organization is great. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. By the way, going back to the quick ad in Outlook on the web, I
Oh
now
yeah,
see invite required attendees on here. So, um,
great.
yep.
It's there for
The
you.
one thing that's really not on here that I would love is make it an online meeting. There's no way to do that in the quick, but you know,
Come on,
anyway.
we've just given you something, Daniel. You want more? It's right though.
Yes,
It's right.
give an inch and it'll take a mile. But yes, I do want to be able to say, hey, make this an online meeting. It's just a little toggle. Can we just put that little toggle up there too? Anyway,
Yeah.
but yes, it's in my tenant now. I am on a first release or targeted release tenant. So, yep.
All
Anyway,
right.
for
The
the
second
supervision
half of that
policies, do you
message.
have do you have like I'm sorry, were you going to go back to that other? Or are you going to? Sorry.
Yeah, I was. I
Oh, okay.
was.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The
Sorry.
second half of that message, the supervision policies now have email exclusions. Now,
Mm,
that means that when you are keeping a closer eye on certain people's activity, you can exclude obvious stuff.
yep.
What is it? Automated notices or newsletters that
Newsletters. Yep.
they won't be included in the review. I might say that they're probably ones like um, ones that are generated from within the Microsoft 365 system. They'll
Mm,
need to have some kind of signature. I'm putting my security hat on here. Maybe that's why I'm dressed like a burglar. Putting my putting my security hat on here. That for those who want to get tricky and hide messages within something that looks like a newsletter or a review of sorts of
hmm
automated notice,
Right.
then you can't just do it based on a recognizable subject. Um, yeah. Sorry, I was just seeing more jokes about
I
my.
know
Look, do you want
Sandy.
me to just
Yes.
take the beanie off? There you go, people. Okay, it's cold here. You might see some frost
Man, you're making
appearing on
sacrifices
my
for
shirt
people.
here. So there we go. Less distracted. Not look like a ninja.
Sacrifices.
Unbelievable.
I like you as a.
Childish audience. Ugh.
Whoa, now, hey, calm down there. This is our audience. You
um,
don't want
okay, this one. Okay, and I'm sure that you'd love to talk about this one. At least from a
to.
SharePoint
Well,
point of view, new Yammer files for
yeah.
Office 365 groups will finally, I've added the word in there, but will finally be stored in SharePoint. This is something that has been coming for some time, and they've
Yes,
finally got their
we've
ducks in
been
a row to make
talking.
it work.
We've been talking about it for a while,
Yep.
because um, the when we first, I'll tell you this: when I first saw Yammer and saw that you could upload files into Yammer, I was like, I mean, this was a long time ago. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
why? And I know it came over from when Microsoft bought it. I get it, but it's like, why can I upload files there and here and everywhere? So finally, we get this to where when we have Yammer and Office 365 connected to Yammer groups, we're going to be able to the files will be stored in SharePoint, which will be great, especially for when we're doing things like search and being able to find all of our content in one place. I think it's going to be a great deal, and we've been looking forward to this. When I'm looking at this notice, though, the biggest thing that comes out at me is at the bottom is all this technical stuff about what do you need to do to prepare for this.
Hmm. Yeah, there is a bit of preparation. And what I think is good about this, while it's one of those more technical messages, and it feels like they're trying to cram everything in there to say this is what
Yeah.
you need to do, it is just an indication of more to look at. And if you're an admin, you look at something like that and you think, actually, I do need to take a closer look at this because it has
Yeah.
some steps. It doesn't say, there's nothing you need to do. No, it actually has a minimum for the Yammer mobile app that is supporting this. You have to think about clearing third-party cookies, and if you've got any applications that are leveraging the the way that files are stored in Yammer,
Yeah.
then they need to start, look to update those if they're going to be supporting SharePoint. And look, the good thing about this is, like it was a confusing thing that we had this step where we had Office 365 connected groups, and then we had two places that would store files. You'd have to purposely go to SharePoint and put it there if you're using Yammer for collaboration. But if you attached a file, which was the more natural notion, it was still landing in Yammer files. One thing I'd say about where they are landing, and you'll dig a little deeper into this as you check out the message. The file goes into SharePoint in a document library, but it goes into kind of a strange place.
Apps.
Yeah, a folder called Apps, and then a folder called Yammer.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why. Why are we calling it apps? I mean, I can kind of get the idea on this is an outside app outside of SharePoint, and so it's kind of giving, okay, we're going to create in apps and then Yammer and then, okay, but Teams doesn't do that. Teams is storing SharePoint files in SharePoint, and Teams doesn't do that. I think this is a carryover from, in this comparison I'm giving right now with Teams, it's three different people, groups of people: SharePoint, Teams, and Yammer, and they don't talk to. I mean, they talk to each other. Don't, but obviously there's some collaboration that needs to happen. I wish they had a collaboration tool that could work. Anyway, we're talking about anyway, sorry. So it would be great if they actually talked about this, because we've got Yammer going to apps Yammer. We have Teams just going to folders for different channels. I don't know. I just feel like let's be consistent.
Yeah. No, I look at that
Said
pattern,
the word.
and I think that maybe that is a pattern for it being used or purposed for other apps.
Other things. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. What
But
other apps are doing
it actually, to me, like you said, that they don't segregate, and I'll use that word, segregate files within a SharePoint library for Teams.
that? Yes.
But they do for Yammer. What does that say? Not just apps, but you've anyway. There's got to be a better way, people. Come on now.
I agree. I don't even like the way Teams does it, but I understand it. I mean, I understand why they
channel
would.
folders.
I don't like folders.
Oh.
I just don't, and it's like SharePoint over here going, don't use folders, only use it in an exception. Teams goes, we're going to use folders. Okay, thanks.
That's a good discussion for an episode with SharePoint historians and document experts.
That
there,
sounds like
'cause
that's a boring
there has been that
discussion,
swing
maybe.
around back to saying folders are okay with metadata. Actually, Joanne, you wrote a great article on that.
Yep.
Let's get you on the show and talk about it sometime. But no, it was really good. It was good to see why it looped back. But anyway, to round that message out.
Yep.
It is a good move. It is going to save some confusion, but just remember, when you do attach a file to a Yammer conversation, you'll have to dig a couple of layers down to find that. Well, at least in the background, here's the flip side to it, Daniel.
Yes.
That if you are just trying to open that file from within the Yammer conversation, it doesn't matter which folder it's in. It's going to open.
I agree, but the whole point of storing it in SharePoint is that you don't have to go to Yammer to get to the file.
Right.
And for the files to be stored in the same location. Well, while they're stored in the same location-ish, you have to go digging for it.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's kind of the point. And so how about if that's the point, let's do it anyway.
Do we still have that view, well, at least in the modern libraries, that you can say show with no folders?
I do not know that. While we
It's one I
move
haven't
on,
used for a while.
I will take a look.
Goodo. All right. Next
Yes.
message. There we go. SharePoint
Yeah.
hubs limit raised to 2,000. So
This
it
one's
was
interesting
100.
because, yeah, this one's actually really interesting because we, right before the show, one of the regarding 365 team, Sarah Hazy, posted a blog post about hubs and home sites and everything with SharePoint. But this raising the limit to 2,000, I've got some things to say about this, but let's see what you have to say, Darrell. What do you think about this raising the limit to 2,000 hubs in SharePoint?
Well, I mean, it's going to allow for a lot of hubs. Maybe potentially encouraging over engineering of groups of teams that are going to pull content together. But I imagine that if you're in a massive enterprise organization and you potentially have many pockets of organizations that use or perform projects, the concept of that hub being a way to pull all your projects together and aggregate all your information at that top level is really useful. And if you were limited to just the 100 and trying to come up with an information architecture that structures just 100,
Right.
2,000 is going to be a good number for you. What do you reckon, Daniel?
I think this is a little bit like, raising the limit for the number of people in a team. That in teams it causes problems with just too many people and too much discussion, and you're not being specific enough. Here, I think it kind of lends itself to that a little bit. I'm sure there's some organizations that need to have more than 100, but do they need 500? Do they need 1,000? Do they need this 2,000? Maybe, but I just feel like you're not being specific enough. You're not positioning your content well enough to where this is kind of one of those. I feel like this is maybe a reaction to this thought that every site either needs to be a hub or needs to be part of a hub. Okay. I do not agree with that conclusion. Every site does not need to be a hub, and every site does not need to be part of a hub. It just doesn't. There are reasons why you wouldn't want one to be part of a hub. And, I'm seeing organizations create a site, and they're like, well, I got to join it to a hub, and there's not one, so I'm going to go create another site and make it a hub, and then join this one site to this hub. Why are you doing that? So I just feel like this may be. I don't necessarily think this is a great thing. I kind of like the 100, maybe 200 if you want to get kind of start talking about the where we are and how we do things. Maybe you want to raise it above 100, but 100 seems more right to me. But anyway,
yeah, look, it's like whenever you have a limit raised. Or maybe it's a bit like when we get paid more of a salary and we shift to a better paying job. We tend to fill to the capacity that's capable for us. And when it's set to 100, we have to think more carefully about our information architecture and be choosy about how many hub sites we might use. Whereas with 2,000, it's like, well, go for your life. Hey, why don't we just create a hub site for those 5 documents? And we'll have a document for each team, and then it'll sit in a hub. I've seen that kind of over-engineering of even teams. One document, one team.
Right. I agree. And again, I think this is, I just don't, okay. It's one of those like, okay, but I feel like this is going to be abused. Yeah. And it's going to make, it's going to muddy and mess things, kind of make them squirrely, just like, subsites and all that kind of stuff. Now, hub sites, yeah, you can turn a hub site off and remove a site from a hub site, association easily. But wow, if you need 2,000 hub sites, wow, Shazam, that's amazing. So someone made a point, and I think Stephen Collier said in the chat room that he thinks it's an arbitrary number, so that no one says, "Hey, but I can only have 100 of these." There may be something to do with that, but there also may be this 2,000 number may be performance induced, because I know that that's something Microsoft was looking at. If an organization has a bunch of hubs, how does that affect performance? So maybe 2,000 is where they landed to be, hey, this is where it doesn't have as much performance impact.
Do you remember maybe 2 or 3 years back when I think it was a special Mark Cashman blog post that said, hey, and we're going to be having 100,000 or 500,000 site collections. And everyone went, what? What will we do with all of those?
Right.
And then out came Office 365 groups, and then eventually teams, because we get a site collection per team. Perhaps it's just planning for that kind of capacity. Right. We can keep wondering on that, but let's move on. We do have some great commentary there from Sarah and Joanne and Phil as well, and Sandy. So check that out if you want to glance over to the right and check the live chat. We have another update, which is really, really useful for those of us who work mobile and in the field a lot. The Outlook Mobile app is getting a few more enterprise requested features. And look, one of those things I think is awesome is being able to access shared mailboxes from your Outlook Mobile. If you're part of a team or a sales team or a support team or something that you're using a shared mailbox to bring in customer responses and you respond as a team to that mailbox, it's great now that you can access that from your mobile.
I agree.
Another one there around file access, enhanced file access is what they call that one. But if you're working on something recently in Office 365, we see this useful list in different places, Daniel. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I do know what you're talking about. And I really want it to work well. Speaking of files, I want to go back to confirm. I just remembered I was going to say this. That view you asked about in SharePoint document libraries, in modern view, can you do the without folders? Yes, you can. So if you select in a modern view, you can select see all files without folders, and it'll work. Just wanted to confirm that. Cool. So, so I have a perfect use case for this. And in fact, I just did it on Friday. I had a client who needed me to sign a document. And I said, okay, send it to me. I have a Surface. I can sign on the thing. And well, I didn't get the email until I was at the airport and about 10 minutes before I was going to board. So I, of course, was not going to pull out my laptop right before I was going to board. I was like, oh, I'll get to it. Then I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to try this on my phone. So on my phone, I opened up the file and saved it into OneDrive, okay, because it was a PDF. I then signed it on my phone with my finger in the PDF in OneDrive. And then I went to Outlook on my iPhone and attached the file from OneDrive into the email. Okay, I had to attach it. I couldn't send a link. I had to actually send the form. I will say it worked. Yay, but it wasn't the easiest thing to understand what the steps I was supposed to do. So I think with this, the upcoming, handling files a little better and what I've been working on recently showing up easier, I think will help that workflow a whole lot better. Along with, every other workflow where you're working on document may not just be something you're signing or whatever, it just may be the recent one you want to do. So anyway, I think I'm looking forward to this enhancements.
The most recently used list, as some know it too, definitely useful to see that in lots of places. Definitely. And coming to mobile, it's going to help that workflow of when we're on the run and we need to just attach that file we've been working on recently. Yeah, a couple of other ones in there too for Outlook mobile. Syncing your calendar from your native Android calendar app, if that's something that appeals, and calendar events and search results when you're going through and saying, I'm looking for something from this person. Oh, that's right, we had a meeting with that person, so we can see that in the results there too.
Which is big. I'm often trying to go find calendar meetings in my calendar where something was in the message or who I was meeting with on my phone. I do that all the time, and so this is a great update for me as well.
Make a comment there from Greg Mashman, saying that like his experience so far is that when he goes to it, he gets prompted for a password for the shared mailbox. Yeah, so are you seeing the update at the moment, Daniel, in Outlook for iOS?
I have not looked. I don't use shared mailboxes, so I haven't actually looked. I can set up a demo to do that, but I haven't done that.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be interesting to hear more of Greg's experience. It might be something that's not quite deployed properly yet. But it's not supposed to be prompting you for a password. It could be something more about your account and how the shared mailbox has been shared with you. Yeah. Because
when he's talking about opening up in the SharePoint iOS app, that means it's looking at the accounts that you've added on the phone, and so that's probably where it is, why it's asking.
So we don't see necessarily that each of the updates have a landing date, just that they're coming soon.
Right.
Like this one here in the coming weeks. But nothing too specific on each of those. Just look out for them. They'll arrive. But good to see it coming. All right.
Next.
Okay. Organization assets for SharePoint Online.
Yes, sir.
When you think of assets, and I think of, I'm thinking about the marketing sense. These are things that are created for us that we can repurpose and reuse. Maybe the marketing department's created some nice logos, and or there's just some look and feel elements that we might be using across all of our intranet. And this update is a big deal for managing and accessing that. Can you tell us more about it, Daniel?
Well, you're exactly right. Organizational assets are those that you want to use as logos, images that you want to use logos, photos that you want to use in your hero web parts, things that are royalty free or royalty assigned to the company, and so it's okay to use those. And so you want to use those across your organization and page headers and galleries and such and web parts. So you can assign one or more document libraries. And now you have to do this via PowerShell now, but as an organizational asset, so that when users go and say, I want to add, like if you add a web part for a gallery, photo gallery or whatever, you can go in and say, when you go to pick a file, you get the listing of the files that you can add, recent files, do a web search, OneDrive, etc. There'll also be your organization. And that's where you will see the compiled list of images that your organization, that people who have permissions to do so in PowerShell, have set those libraries as being an organizational asset library. So you'll be able to, and I like this implementation to where it's going to be listed in with all of your other file locations, the way you can find images, such as doing a web search, OneDrive, etc. I like it being right there. It's going to be slick so that you don't have to go looking and hunting for the user. You can just use it right where it is. So, pretty slick.
Definitely a good way of standardizing that look and feel too. Again, and making it so it's not so difficult to drag something out of a library in a different site, put it somewhere temporarily, go back to your site, recreate it. Gets a bit messy there.
Yep.
There's a couple of. Have you noticed that sometimes there's been some notifications that land on your Saturday? Like I say this because I'm used to seeing stuff come in and like I'll see the date on there. It's Friday, but I know it's Friday based in the US time, and it's arriving on my Saturday. But I saw something that arrived on my Sunday during your Saturday.
Right.
maybe the week's getting longer. I almost had a rebellious feeling about this, that, hey, this is like someone trying to send an email to me in my time off. Do I respond to this?
This kind of feels like, and this happens in the U.S. I don't know if it happens in other countries where government announces things on Friday afternoon, so that it can't be picked up in news cycles easily, and people are already checked out of work and they're ready to go home and start their weekend. And so they'll put it in on Friday morning or Saturday or Friday evening or Saturday morning, kind of skip it in, so it's not covered by the newspapers during the week, that kind of stuff. It kind of feels like that. I don't know. This is probably just a scheduling thing. They picked a date and ran with it. But this is an interesting functionality, and so
Teams
I'll let you talk
notifications.
I'll let you talk about the functionality in a second. But then we need to talk about licensing, which is odd. So take it away, Darrell. But
okay, so
talk about
yes, when we send a message to a colleague, a friend, we've got the importance option. There's a few ways to make your message stand out. Some of us have got into the habit of using subjects. Great, means that it stands out in the flow of things. Do that; it's really good. Use that formatting button. Go one further. You of course can @mention people, @mention the team, @mention the channel. Hello, I'm trying to get your attention, and you become an activity notification. You've got the importance, so that again will make that message stand out just a little bit more. Now we've got that. Here's the fourth layer. The fourth layer is I'm going to be able to send an urgent message, and it's going to bug you every 20 minutes or so to make sure that you are reading that, right? So it's called urgent or priority notifications. And that's a new ability to get hold of you. The use case I heard using to describe this, they were talking about using it in the medical scenarios where you're using it for patient care, and you want to make sure that a doctor or someone has indeed read this message, and that they're going to get bugged every time so they don't forget. Kind of pairs up with that other one we saw recently where you get to see who has read that message. But yes, unusual thing around...
I had five fingers up, Darrell. You forgot one. So you said message headers, you said @mentioning people, marketing and important, and then this one, you forgot using GIFs.
Oh, God, yeah. Got to use a GIF, right?
That's the way you get attention.
Now we can add a GIF that's going to bug people every 20 minutes.
Anyway, so this is what I'm counting. I'm sure there's other ways, but five different ways for people. Please look at my post. Please look at my post. Please pick up my post. So I think this is interesting. And I know we're running short on time, but I think this is a big update. We can talk about this maybe a little bit more, investigate once it comes. But the licensing part is the part that kind of confused me, as I'll get out, because
can we give a shout out to Randy Chapman for helping us look at the right place?
Sure. He did that, and so it's right there in the message. It calls out the here's what's going to happen. Priority notifications. So starting January 1st, before January 1st, 2020, it's free for everybody, unlimited. Go for it. Do as many messages as you want. Annoy all the peoples. Starting January 1st, 2020, it's going to be unlimited still for enterprise customers, E3 and E5s. That's both Office 365 and Microsoft 365. Education, A3 and A5s. A small medium business, so Business Premium and 365 Business. So free for you continuing after that, January 1st. But everyone else, so you're talking about the F1s and E1s and A1s and the Business Essentials, you're going to get 5 messages per month per user only. So you can only bug 5 people or one person 5 times a month on these. This seems weird. I kind of heard about this coming, but it seems kind of odd, this licensing. I don't know. It just seems odd. I know there's probably, hey, your frontline workers, you don't
Yeah.
want them bugging everyone in the organization over and over again. Yes, I get that. But this just seems, I don't know, it's odd to me.
Yeah. Well, okay, interesting then if you're using a frontline license to
Hmm.
enable nursing staff,
Yeah.
who are the very audience that you probably want to give unlimited.
Now you're
Um,
going to have to bump them up to an E3
yeah, that's
if you
right.
want to give them
Yeah, like
unlimited.
you're right. It feels artificial that this is a line that they're drawing. And your comment before we started the show was there's a few things that differentiate between an F1 and an E1, E3, etc.
Yep.
Around like mailbox size and OneDrive and access to certain things. And this is another one that's been slapped on there is you're only going to get 5 of these types of messages per month, which it's kind of maybe it's using a flow in the background and there's a cost involved.
Um,
No.
yeah, probably not. But
I would hate to think that would be the case. But yeah, let's
and
see.
is it pooled?
Pulled?
Like
Oh,
others pooled,
right.
meaning it's 5 messages per user per month. Just like Flow, if you have it with 365, you have so many Flow runs per user per month, and they're pooled together. So if you
Yeah.
have 5 F1s, does that mean between those 5 people, 25 messages per month can be sent, or is it actually 5 per user
Oh, yeah.
per
I
month?
think it's going to be per user.
I think so too, but I think it needs to be specific. I mean, it needs to really be called this out because there's other licensing in Office 365 where
That
it is pooled,
Yeah.
and we need to know is it pooled or not, I think.
Can we have the pooled plan, please?
Yes.
Pay an extra $5 a month, and we'll pool our urgent messages.
I'm sending feedback, by the
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
right now.
yeah. I put out on Twitter about this discussion. Thank you, Randy Chapman, for pointing us towards the licensing page, which actually I probably should have
It is
taken my own
it
medicine and
is right there. The
yeah,
hyperlink priority
yeah.
notifications is the same there, but
Additional information. Read about it. Read about it, Darrell. Well, actually, to that point, I read this message from my mobile, and
okay.
the information in the Office 36 or Microsoft 365 admin app doesn't have a
Mhm.
link through to that, as far as I could see.
Mm.
Anyway, is this our last one? Well, I guess yeah,
Yes.
this one is our last one. We'll finish on it. I don't have a lot to say about it because it's not my area,
Nope.
but we know that
Well,
the Business Apps Summit is currently running, and this seems to be aligned as a announcement with that timing. That there's a release for Wave 2 of the platform.
well, it is so twice a year. Actually, the Power Platform releases this book, basically, and this time it's 140 pages, I think,
Wow.
of all of the updates that are happening with the Power Platform. So this is, of course, Microsoft Flow, one we talk about quite a bit, Power Apps, Power BI, AI Builder, and so some bits about AI Builder, the Common Data Service that those apps use, as
Mm.
well as some of the Dynamics 365. So that's Power Platform, right? 365 is kind of the umbrella Dynamics 365, but that's when we talk about. So this one, they're renaming it to be, I can't remember the exact name of what it used to be called, but now it's called the Power Platform Release Wave, and this is Release Wave 2 plan. Anyway, but basically it is gives you the insights into what they're working on and when they think it's going to be released. So they've released it, new thing. Not only have they renamed it this time, but they've also released it as the PDF like they have before, but then also as an online. It's all online, and you can navigate through and see the information there in docs.microsoft.com. So the link's there. So it's pretty slick. So it gives you the feature, what it's enabled for, when it's in public preview, the general availability, and is there any way to get early access. So it's pretty, if you want to learn about, it's kind of like the Office 365 roadmap. I mean, it pretty much, but it shows you for the Power Platform, what's coming, and it gives you a little bit of information about each one of the things that they're working on. Some mock-ups they've done for new functionality, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like we'd hope too that eventually it's brought into the roadmap. Yeah, but
I don't know about that. Like, I don't know if it is already or not. I can't. But what's really weird is if you look at the navigation over there on the left-hand side, it looks like, it's just one thing, but it's not. None of that stuff applies to what you're reading here. If you click on, if you scroll up here on this page, there's a link that says, see, it says online there on the second sentence, I think. Click that, and then it'll take you. Well, see, it didn't work. Anyway, there's this really weird way to get into it. I don't like the navigation as to how I got into the actual details of this. Anyway, it is. It's kind of difficult to read, to be honest. The PDF is. So, good luck. But I've seen it. This is the fourth time I think they've released this PDF. I mean, it's huge, and but it gives insight into what's coming for the Dynamics 365 Power Platform.
350 pages.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wow. All right. Good reading.
Yes.
Get to it. All right. Well, that's the last update, and I guess that sort of came out, as I said, in time for the summit itself. But yeah, we'll finish off by just asking a few things about how your SharePoint Saturday Nashville went. How was that, man?
It's coming. It's actually Saturday. So planning is ongoing, but it is this Saturday. For those of you in Nashville, spsnashville.org. We've got everything's lined up, scheduled, fantastic content, wonderful sponsors, great speakers, a great lunch for free donuts for in the morning, great coffee, and we're going to have some fantastic giveaways at the end. So please look us up and sign up and share it with your organization. So it's going to be this Saturday. Fantastic. I know that, trying to remember, I know that Joanne was on earlier in the chat room. She's going to be here speaking along with a lot of other people, a lot of great speakers. So it's going to be fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah.
And on my side, getting prepared. I know it's like a month or so away, but the Digital Workplace Conference Australia going to be held in Sydney, and there'll be a few of us over from the Regarding 365 team, and looking forward to seeing you there too. That's on August the 6th and 7th, and tickets are out. I think the early bird is still available to buy, so check that out. All right, well that was us, and that was you in the chat room. Thank you very much for coming along, everyone, and definitely throwing in your cheeky. I'm going to put my beanie back on because it's damn cold. Dang cold. That was our people today. That was Daniel and Darrell tonight. Now, good now, everyone. See you later.